Today, we're building a user management application with Expo React Native. And specifically, we're putting a couple of different Supabase features together, namely the Supabase database. So that's a Postgres database with a RESTful API that we can call directly from the client side. And then we're putting that together with Supabase Auth, our authentication service, and we can combine this with row-level security policies to give programmatic access to our database directly from the client side. So this is really the powerful thing of the Supabase stack, is that you can access your database securely directly from the client side, and the client side, being either a website or in this case, your mobile application, and you don't need to go through a server environment. We give you a secure server environment with our RESTful API and the row-level security policies. Great. So let's dive into this. So we have this guide here. I'm going to link that below as well. And then if you get stuck, also you can get the full example code on GitHub as always. Now, first of all, we're going to create a new project in Supabase. Going to create this here. We'll just call it Expo Super Quickstart. And I'm in Singapore. So I'm just going to select this region here. Great. So while our project is setting up, let's go ahead and continue along. We'll come back to kind of setting up the database schema in a bit. But first of all, let's get our React Native app with Expo set up. We can use this handy create Expo app to create our TypeScript blank template Expo user management. So let's do this over here. Okay, great. And we've already CD'd into our Expo user management. So let's open this in, I like to use VS Code. So we can use our terminal down here. And then we can look at our app.tsx, great. And then here we can see in our package.json, we have a couple scripts. So let's just make sure our everything is set up correctly. So let's say npm run iOS. Okay, and we're opening up on the iPhone simulator here. Let's make this a little bit bigger. And then also let's put this maybe side by side. Okay, great. And then, yes, this is our entry point. There we are. Okay, perfect. So everything is up and running correctly. Very good. And then we will need a couple dependencies like supabase-js. We need React Native async storage. So that's what we'll use to store our session, our auth session, some React Native elements, and a URL polyfill. So we can just copy that and then go over. I'll just stop this here, and we can run npx expo install to make sure that for libraries that have kind of a compatibility with sort of a certain Expo SDK, that we're installing the right library. So you can see here for, I believe it's the React async storage, native async storage. We're installing the correct version for our SDK 49 here. And there we have it. Okay, so we have that all installed. And then we can come here and we can set up our supabase-js client. So supabase-js is what we're using to communicate with our database, our REST API that forwards queries to our database, as well as our authentication server and kind of all the different pieces. But so first of all, we had created our project here. And now we need to set up database schema. Now this is very handy. We can go over to the SQL editor here, and we have some handy templates. Let me zoom in there a bit. Actually quick starts here. So in our case, we are using the user management starter. And you can see that we have a profiles table, and the profiles table here has an ID, and that references our auth.users ID. So here we're making a connection to our auth service is using Postgres as well, and it's using the user schema, the auth schema, and then a users table, auth.users. And so we're referencing this here. And then we're creating some role level security policies. Specifically here, we're saying, okay, all profiles are publicly viewable. And then we're saying, but for insert and update, only the own user ID. So we can say here auth.uid equals ID. So we can make sure that they can only create entries with their own user ID and can only update entries that are their own user ID. And then we have a little trigger here, which is also quite handy. So what we're doing is anytime that a new user here is created, so after an insert in our auth.users table, we're then just copying their ID, and if we have kind of some user metadata, so generally if we're using OAuth, we would get some user metadata, and then we're copying that over as well to our public profiles table. And so there we can have some automation to automatically create kind of the user entry and create that connection with here the ID being our foreign key that references each other. Okay, perfect. So we can do this. And then here, that is for the storage. We can kind of create the storage buckets already, but we're not looking at storage kind of in this specific tutorial. So let's ignore that for now. And now if we go back to our tables, we can see we got our profiles table here. And we got all this set up. Okay, great. So we can go back to our tutorial. Now, if we're running Supabase locally with the Supabase CLI, we can link our project, and then we can pull down this SQL as well. So this will generate a migration. If you're interested to learn more about kind of local development, you can do that here. And then we will need, in the API settings, we can get our URL and our anon key. We won't need our service role key for this. Okay, so we've done this. And then we need to create our Supabase.js client here. So we can copy that over. I'm just going to create a new file. I'm going to create a new folder called utils, and then supabase.ts. And then in here, we are going to use our async storage. So we need to pass a storage implementation to our Supabase.js client that works on this specific platform. So async storage is something that works across iOS, Android, and web if you're using that with Expo. And so we can use that here kind of across the different platforms. And then we need to put in our Supabase URL and anon key. Now, in kind of a real world scenario, you would ideally set that up as constants. Our case, we'll just go to our project settings API, and we'll just copy it in here. Now remember, these are fine to paste. So the public key you can expose in your client application, so your website, your mobile applications, what have you. That's fine. Now your service role key, that very much you need to keep secret and only use in a secure server environment. But so now we have this. So we have our Supabase client set up in our utils. Actually, I think here we're calling it lib. So yeah, let's maybe conform with that. So that makes it easier later. Okay, great. So library supabase-js. And now we can go and use that. So we're setting up a login component. So this is our auth component. Let's copy that over. We're going to create a new file, new folder, components /auth.tsx. And then we'll step through this. So here we're getting our Supabase JS instance from our library Supabase. So that we just set up here. And then we're just using kind of the React state. We're using some alert, style sheet, some views, and a button and input. And yes, we're just using our styles, our states here. And then sign in with email. So this is kind of the Supabase auth. We say sign in with password. We pass in the email and the password. And then we have an alert. And then sign up with email. We're doing Supabase auth sign up. So that's the method to sign up a new user, email, password. And then if we have an error, we show the error message. And now in this case of the sign up, so you can see this here in the documentation as well. So by default, Supabase auth requires email verification before a session is created. Now, in order to do this kind of email verification, you will need to handle deep linking into your application. Now we have some great documentation on that, as well as a video. You can find it here somewhere if you're interested in how to do that. But we're not going to do this today, so we can actually disable this in our project's email provider settings. But for now, let's see kind of wire everything up and see how it works, and then we'll go from there. And then here we're just kind of having our input fields, email, password, and the sign in and sign up buttons, and just a little style sheet down here. And then we're just creating another component. So this is our account page. So that we will show when the user is logged in. So let's create a new file, account.tsx. Paste that in there. And so again, just some use state, use effect, our Supabase client from the library. And then the session, this is just the type, so it makes it easier to use this. And then we expect, when we're rendering the account, we will pass in the session from, the Supabase client when we have it. And then basically we're just checking, okay, here in the use effect, basically, if the session changes, we run this use effect again, and we're just checking, okay, do we have a session? And if we have a session, then we run this get profile method. And so here you can see how we can retrieve data from the database. So we're saying Supabase from profiles. We select the username, the website, and the avatar URL. Now, if you're familiar with SQL, this is probably quite familiar for you. We're just checking, okay, equal. So we only want the row where the ID is the same as the user ID in the session. And then we just want to return a single record. So that means that the data then either is null, if we don't have an entry for this user, or we get the username, the website, and the avatar URL. And then we're just setting that information in our view. And we have an update profile method. And so in this case, you can see that we're just taking the updates, the user ID, the username, website URL, and we're just passing, the current date into kind of updated at, and then we can just perform an upsert with our updates to the profiles table. And since we're passing the ID, it will only upsert, where there's already kind of that ID available. Or, you know, if we don't have the ID already, then we will insert a new record. So that is what upsert does. And that is pretty much it. We have, yeah, again, some input fields here, button, sign out button as well, just using Supabase auth sign out. Okay, and so that is our account page. And then finally, we just need to put it all together in our app.tsx file. So we can say, copy that. We go to our here, app.tsx, and just paste in the entire thing here. And then we can say again, npm run iOS. Okay, great. So you can see now here, let's create a tester and set some password. And so now if you say, if I try to sign in, you know, invalid, we don't have a user. Now, if I say sign up, we have the scenario where we haven't disabled the email verification yet, so please check your inbox for email verification. As a reminder, you can implement deep linking. There's a link in the docs and the description below, and there's a video as well here about deep linking. But for now, for testing, what we can do is we can go to our auth, and you can see now here we have this tester user who's waiting for verification. And then we can go to the providers, and this is the email provider here, and we can toggle off the confirm email, save those settings. And now what we can do is we can create a new user. We'll just say tester2, and we say sign up. And so in this case, we don't need to verify the email, and we get a session back for the user right away. And now you can see here, so if we go back to our auth users, we can see this user doesn't need to wait for verification, tester2. And if we go to the table editor, to our profiles, you can see we have both users in here and no information yet. So let's just say the username is tester_test. And the website is just https example.com. And now we can say update. We don't have any confirmation message, but we locked the button, so the update was actually really quick. If you saw that, and you can see now here, we have an updated at timestamp. We have our username, and we have the website here. Yes, so the update is working as expected. So now let's do another thing. Let's do a list of all the users. If you remember earlier, we created the policy, so the read policy, we can see that here. We have active policies. So we have a public profiles are viewable by everyone. So let's add kind of a list of all the users down here. And so this is in our account page. We'll just want maybe, yeah, vertically spaced. Let's just create a new view down here. And then let's see if we can find, I remember there was like a Shopify React Native, I think, was it FlashList, something like that. Yes, so this is a pretty cool project, kind of FlashList. Usage here, so we can npx install expo install this. So maybe let's open a new window, say npx expo install Shopify FlashList. And while this is installing, maybe we can look at this here. So we're importing our FlashList at the top. And now we can, yeah, maybe let's just do this, kind of see that the list is rendering. Okay, we get our data, and then just FlashList. Let's put that here into our view, and then we still need the text from React Native. Let's get text. And now if we save this, we can see we need to provide a size for our FlashList view. So the view that holds this. So we can add another style object in here. So let's just say height 200 for now. And so now you can see we have a first item and a second item. Okay, and so now we can go ahead and we can maybe fetch the users. So let's do a new method, async function, get all users. And then we can call await supabase.from from our profiles. You can see here the same kind of syntax profiles. We want to select, maybe let's just select the ID from everyone. Yeah, so we're not setting any filter because we want all the records. And then what we can do is we'll get the data here. So the data is either an array of an object with IDs or null. And so what we can do now is maybe say here users and then set users. And so we'll have that as an empty array, and it will be an object with ID of type string, and then an array of that here. And then what we can do, so we'll remove this data. We don't need anymore. That was our mock data. And then what we can do is here. So we're saying set users to data, and now data could be null. So in that case, if it's null, let's just set it to an empty array. Then there might be an error. So we could do, you know, if there's an error, we can do a console.log, maybe of the error message. Okay. Yeah, well, basically only if there is an error, then we'll do, then we don't need that optional chaining here anymore. Okay, great. Now we need to hook this up. So pretty much the same here. If we have a session, then we want to get all the users, and then we're setting the users here. And then here, rather than data, we're putting in the users, and then we're rendering the item, and the item doesn't have. So that's a great thing about TypeScript. We now know the users is an object, item.id. Give that a save. And so now what you can see is we're getting our two users here. So if we go back into our table editor, you saw we had these two users. Here they are. We could also do, well, if we fetch the name, let's stick with the IDs for now. Let's sign out. Let's create another user, tester3. Okay, sign up. And so now what you can see is we have 1, 2, 3 users here. And as a reminder, so this is the RLS policy here. So we're saying, okay, all public profiles are viewable by everyone, which also means that anyone who has your anon key can make a select query to get all the public profiles. So you want to be careful with kind of policies like this. Really only do this if you have data that, you know, can be publicly exposed. Otherwise, you want kind of, you know, a different policy. So for example, you could do a policy authenticated, then, you know, they would need to be logged in as well. So you can see here, there's rules. So anon, you know, basically anyone with the anon key can retrieve that data. With authenticated, only someone who is actually, you know, logged in, but basically anyone who's logged into your service can retrieve the data. And then here we can restrict this further with some checks. We'll discard the changes here. So we'll update our policy here, and we'll add this check auth.uid. We can say everyone authenticated, you know, that kind of goes hand in hand. We can review this. So we can see this is the change that will be made. We can save the policy. And so now if we go back and if we re-render our app, we can now see that we're only getting our own user ID. So this is the one ED1PA. So tester 3, if we're now checking tester 3 should be, maybe we go to auth, we see tester 3, and then we can copy the ID, and let's just say, yes, ED1PA. So now only they can see their own data, and we've restricted all the other data. So, so this is how we're using the role level security policies to lock down our app. And that's pretty much it. This is kind of sort of the quick start, how you can get started. Now there's a bonus for using Supabase storage with profile photos. You know, you can have a look at that. But yeah, we're really excited that you're building with Expo and React Native, and let us know what other topics you'd like to learn about, and see you next time.